I always loved the water. It was definitely my happiest place. As a kid, I lived for the pool. I would be the first one in line every time with my straw blonde hair, just very chlorinated.
I love how the visuals go with what she's saying, especially starting with the beginning title sequence with the bike going through the beginning credits and whatnot. I thought that was really, really cool, and I think the artist did a fantastic job. I'm assuming it's the same artist who did some of the visuals throughout the piece, and I thought that was really cool as well. But like every time she made a reference regarding anything from her childhood, or like anything with like biking or whatnot, like even that beginning sequence, I thought that was really, really cool. I also really liked the use of the graphics in a sense of like whenever she would recall things, we would basically have a frame of reference for maybe what she's visualizing in her own mind from her own experience. I thought that was really, really cool. I think the interviews worked very well. I think it went seamlessly, while she's telling basically the whole story of what happened to her, and just kind of like, having that realization of, trying to live your life to the fullest and whatnot. I think she's just very relatable. I think she's a very relatable person in which, she tells the story from the beginning where, she didn't know where her life was going. She had her daughter. She wasn't exactly sure what to do as a person, and, just kind of, um, making those steps and those mistakes and those faults and whatnot to get to where she wanted it to be. Even, she said that thing where it's like sometimes it shouldn't have to take a near death experience to change your life, but it takes a death experience to change your life. And I just think that is so crazy that she survived something like this and she lived to tell the tale.
It had such a modern feel to a documentary. They did a lot of really creative things where they were using quick cuts. I thought that it was edited really well. They added some graphics into it. I mean, it was really, really amazingly done. And the cinematography was just gorgeous, especially the places that they were going, the canyons and then going into the caves and all of that. It was so cool to meet Nichole and find out about her story. I mean, there was a big part of her story that was terrifying because of the accident, but then it became very inspiring how she kind of pulled through that and got over what happened to her. I mean, she almost was dead and not able to walk ever again. Um, One of the things that I loved was the fact that the filmmakers decided to use a lot of animation and graphic artwork to show some of the hazards of canyoneering. Am I saying that right? It's a very extreme hiking, rappelling, spelunking kind of a thing. And this is no joke going into it. I had never heard of it before until now, and it was just fascinating.
Her story is really, really powerful and really, really moving. And I liked that we got all these different aspects of it. I liked that you got a little bit of the history beforehand and then going into such detail about that day in her accident. I thought was really intense, but you got it from all these different perspectives, which I thought was really, really beautiful to be able to kind of hear the story, not just from her, but who she was with and the rescuers and getting the kind of feedback and getting the story from all of these different sources who all experienced that day in different ways, but the power and impact of that day was still felt by kind of all of them in their own ways. And I thought that that was really beautiful to kind of highlight that when something traumatic happens, obviously there's people that it affects more, but being a part of something like that does leave its kind of mark. That wasn't the end of her story. Her accident wasn't the end of her story, and that was kind of told towards the beginning, and you really got a lot of time afterwards with how she recovered and what she did and how hard it was mentally in trying to kind of get back up on her feet, both like both in like a literal sense and in a metaphorical sense. And the journey afterwards, it was about the approach, it was about the mindset, it was about how powerful those things can be. And I really, really enjoyed it. I really liked the approach. I liked how they told the story. Um, I think that it can reach a lot of people. I thought that it was really relatable and really accessible.
This is so inspiring. This is so soul touching. Like you can feel it if you really want to do it something like the best you can when you feel ambitious, when you feel passionate about it. So I feel like the subtext of this documentary is so strong in itself, and with like the backgrounds, with the details, with the interview footages that the documentary compiles into like this one. I feel like it's really strong to tell the story, to understand like what a woman is like in her own aspect and how she want like to lead it in her own way.
What I loved about this documentary was how raw it felt, the personal and emotional connection that it has to the overall story felt quite unique in a sense that it makes the viewers quickly sympathize with what's happening on the screen and in the story. I also loved how the opening scene set the tone for the rest of this documentary. And instead of going into the end result, it provides a great detail about how she was as a younger person into what she became in the present day. I love how it also details her thrill for adventure and climbing. And this documentary was a great eye opener about never giving up and being resilient in unforeseen times, no matter the obstacles that are for or faced in front of you.
Genuinely fascinating, genuinely gripping. Like when she's telling the story of what like the event, like what happened for real, like the whole like and it cuts to the recreations and the animations to like help clarify the narrative. I think one, that's a great choice as a storyteller to help us process and help us understand where everything is and what exactly is going on. I think that was great. But also just the storytelling of it. The story is inherently like um, um, cliffhanging or whatever. I guess if I were to make a pun, the idea that like the story is inherently like gripping as far as like the dangling and all of that stuff. Um, and then also just like the recreations with the B-roll and like all of the like editing choices and everything. It was just well told. It was well told. It was an inherently gripping story that was well told with a lot of with good motifs about like motherhood and like not giving up and all of that.